Excited for our guests today. Two longtime friends of mine. We got Visco brothers, Nick and Vin. They are the CEO and Director of Operations at Axial Medical, and excited to get after it today with them. Welcome to the show, boys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fran.
We're pumped.
So why don't you guys just give a quick debrief people on, a little bit about who you guys are, where you're from, and what exactly you guys do at Axial.
I'll let
Go
you.
for it, Nick.
You want me to jump into it?
Yeah, go for it.
Again, my title is Director of Operations at Axial Medical. We're a contract manufacturer, so we make all medical implants. So everything's implants. We don't really get into any instruments, but we make other people's designs. So if you think of the likes of, I always think of the Stryker example because a lot of people know that company. Stryker will have a design, and it's our job to figure out how to make that design, how to manufacture it, and our job is really how many do you need and trying to deliver within a time frame that they need them.
That's basically it. They'll send us blueprints, 3D models. They'll say, hey, Axial, we need 10,000 screws. How much do they cost and when can we get them? So we don't design anything. We just come up with the process of manufacturing and then deliver the parts.
Mm-hmm. And for those of you that don't know, Strykers, all medical devices, you need an implant, screw for knee surgery, ankle, whatever. Correct. You guys are actually making those for that company.
Yeah, correct. We focus on implants. So there's people in the space who do implants, they do instruments, they do beds, they do bracing. We're specifically orthopedic and some other pain management implants only.
Got it. And
we'll do instruments occasionally, like a screwdriver, but.
So this is obviously a very niche business. So how'd you get into this? I know nothing about the medical world. Something I'd even know until I met you guys was that screws are going in people's bodies
forever
in any way, shape, or form.
It was our dad, dude. It was our dad. Yeah. So without him, it would not have ever been possible. We grew up and he had a machine shop that he started, typical Apple beginning story. It was literally in his dad's garage, his parents' garage. So his backstory, as best as I can summarize it, is he loved woodworking and stuff when he was a kid, but kind of realized that maybe you don't make too much money there. So he went into machining. And he had an internship at a local company. It's called the Delp Corporation. And at the time they did a whole bunch of different things, aerospace, a whole bunch of stuff. They eventually focused in on semiconductors. And this was before the internet came out, right? So it's all CPU stuff, microchip stuff and really small, high volume production. And then the internet came out and totally killed the Delp Corp because they just put all their eggs in the IBM basket. And then when the internet came out and we don't need computers the size of this room anymore, the company went out. That was my dad's opportunity. He still worked there. It was he saw it wasn't good, but realized he wanted to do something on his own. So he cashed in his 401k. He was 19, something crazy young, just took some balls to really do that, dude. Cashed in his 401k, bought a machine, was going to Drexel at night, working during the day, ended up never getting his degree, which is even more badass. And he was dating my mom at the time, or married to my mom at the time, and halfway through he got an order from Johnson & Johnson to make, back in the day, Tylenol pills had two different colors. They were blue and red, right? And then some crazy guy, I think in LA, was opening up the capsules, putting cyanide in them and putting them back on the shelf and killing people. So Tylenol, J&J had to recall.
I had to address
Tylenol.
that issue.
Yeah. So, but then the marketing department was whoa, no, our capsules need to be blue and red. So J&J went out all over the country and they basically tried to find someone who could make the contraption was literally as big as this table, and it was a vacuum. There'd be a tumbler, something that would vibrate the parts. So the pills would now stand up on end. So they weren't capsules anymore. Now they were hard pills we're used to seeing today. Mm-hmm. And so no one could open them up, but they still wanted them blue and red. And dipping them one by one is not an option, right? So they had to find something that said it would vibrate at a certain frequency. It would stand the pills up. Then this big, it would be like a sandwich. So the one end would come over top of these pills, and there'd be a little individual slots for each pill. A vacuum would turn on. It would pick up the pills. It would dip them in the red. And then underneath them, another one would come and grip on the red, and then dip it in blue, and then the pills were made. and he made like all the little vacuum tips for it.
Wow.
So he was like 19 or 20, and like he was cranking out parts in his garage. And he told my mom, he was like, listen, like, I'm just going to take a semester off. Like the job was like $45,000, and it was 1988.
That was
Which is like
a ton of money.
200, 300
he's
grand
crap
today.
load.
Yeah,
Right,
it's like
yeah.
not even 20. He's like rich. He's like, chill, it's worth it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to do this. And then halfway through, they doubled the order. So now it's $100,000, $90,000. And he's like, I'll just go back next year. And it just never went back. Like shit just started flowing into him. So that's how Vistec started. And then it really focused on.
And for people who don't know, Vistec was the precursor to Axial.
That's right. It was
Yep.
my father's first company.
Yep.
He sold it in 2009.
Yeah, 2009. Yeah, 2009.
And then it went into like all aerospace and defense. So did you guys ever see War Dogs?
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that story.
All right. So like when they're like bidding on jobs on the computer, that's literally what it was like. So you could just like bid on jobs and
To
get
make
jobs
whatever.
to make whatever the hell it was. And if you were the cheapest one, you'd get the job. But if you screwed up once, the government was like, you're out. Like you're never making another job for us again. So you get one chance. And he got this huge job, and he tells the story. It was what was it? It was like something for tanks, wasn't it? Where they have to do like it was like some kind of drop test.
Mm-hmm.
They have to do like these drop tests to test these parts. So there's like 3 tests you have to do. One's like a 3-foot drop, one's like a 6-foot drop, and one's like a 9-foot drop, and the parts can't break. So he like submits his quality lot. The 3-foot drops passed, so he gets paid. And then he has to do his 6-foot drops. He submits them, they pass, he gets paid. And then like the 9-foot drop 6 foot was supposed to be like the last stop. So he submits his 9-foot drops, and they all break. Like all of his parts are breaking.
Oh.
So he's like freaking out. He just bought like another machine. He's like totally panicked.
And these machines aren't cheap, I'm
No.
presuming.
Oh
Yeah.
no, like he's got no money. He literally
Yeah.
has no money. He's like poor and like nothing.
Yeah.
And just reinvesting everything back in. And then I was alive at this point. Obviously, I don't remember it. So the government like calls him. He's like, "Hey, listen, you can't make good parts. Like you're out." He's like, "Fuck." And he's just like so like it's like rock bottom.
Yeah.
And then he somehow like gets a call from a guy, some dude he knew. Like this type of stuff always happens with my dad. Like someone he knew, or like he found the way and he figured out that like the quality test wasn't right. Someone called him and was like, "Dude, we're only supposed to do 6-foot drops. Like you're back in." So that we went from like rock bottom to just like take off. And then it just was like government work, just flowing through. So we made like train track rails. We made like fighter jet cockpit components. And then towards the end, it refocused back into medical in like 2006.
In your space, do people want to be working? Like, do they want government work, or do you guys want the private companies like Stryker? I mean, obviously, where you guys lean now, but like back in the day, was that where you wanted to be, or was it pretty much just like, hey, whatever business we can get, like we want?
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Back then, it was just like all job shops were like that. But then like
what could we
now
bid
we
on?
wouldn't
What do you
touch it.
want? What could you make?
dude,
and go.
anything like train track rails, fighter jet, like Tylenol vacuum.
And was
like,
that the
legit
bidding
anything.
part? Was just like, hey, like, what do people want? Can we bid it? Can we make it? Do our machines work to
Yeah, and the
provide it?
crazy shit then too is like back then there was no 3D models. It was just blueprints, and back then there was no email. So like,
Just
if
figure it out.
You like a guy would like mail
lot of
you a set
manual
of
stuff.
prints, and you have to like look at this blueprint and like. He's like, yeah, I'll quote these jobs. I'll send them to you in the mail. You get it like a week later, and then you got to look at it, like mail them back. Like it would be crazy. I don't know how it happened back then. But his other story is that medical manufacturing saved this like area. So Bucks County was a huge manufacturing hub because of the Dub Corp, because of a whole bunch of other things. There was a lot of other companies around here that manufactured, and then manufacturing like went overseas, and medical manufacturing never made its way over. So most companies died who couldn't adopt medical. Luckily, Vistec was able to adopt some medical stuff. It's just like next level hard. It's making like a train track rail is one thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Making something that goes in your body forever is next level difficult. So if you don't have the talent at your shop to do it, you went out of business.
And there's still like more than a handful of companies like in our area that do what we do. So even though we're in like a small little niche, like we talked about,
Like
there's
five,
still
right?
like at least
4.
5,
Yeah.
I would say at least 5 that are in our space that are like really solid companies that are in this little market that, you know, even our customers look at it and they're like, wow, this is just like, it's a small little hub. It's not some big hub for it. Right. But it's still popular enough that there's a lot of good companies like us, like in our area that do the same work that we do.
Yeah.
Even now small, like it's really a tiny, like not many people know about it. But it's still pretty cool to think about.
What
Bucks
does
County,
make
our
it
area.
so hard to do, right? Because I mean, in my ignorant mind, I would say like doing it at a high level, it doesn't seem to be that difficult. Like, how much goes into it? And obviously, you're putting things in to keep people alive or to keep their bones together, whatever it is. What's that difference between an inferior product and what you guys are producing?
My idiot mind immediately went to like, do these things ever rust inside someone's body? Like questions like that.
They figured that out in like 1940.
Yeah,
we came with the rust and stuff.
We're getting there. We're getting there, big friend.
But like a lot of it's super complex. So the biggest thing is we're registered with the FDA. So we just had an audit. An FDA audit
6
months
months
ago, 5 months ago. Yeah, and they it's not like an easy audit. They come, they uncover every nook and cranny, and our customers audit us too. The customers will warn us and they'll say like, hey, do you have audit dates in November? They come once a year and they like crawl up your ass and they look at everything.
And all of our customers, every design that they're going through is running through the FDA too. So we need to be on that level of like the FDA can walk in here and it's not like, can we come in here? It's, hey, we're coming in here and if you're not here, we're still coming in here.
Exactly.
There's no rescheduling
because
like,
they
it's
told
just
us
they're coming. And
I was like, I told Wolf Stefani, who's our director of quality, who actually used to work, my father used to work for him, which back in the day, which is funny. And they told Wolf, Wolf's like, Vin, the FDA just called, like they're coming. And I was away. I was going to be away on vacation. I'm like, oh, just tell them like the executive team's out and we can't have the audit.
We were in Vegas for a trade
show.
We're in the opposite of the FDA.
I was like, Nick and I aren't going to be here. Like, tell them like that you need like extra people to help. And he like told the auditor and he was like, hey, the auditor said like it wasn't like we're not
we're coming back.
You'll be all right.
Yeah.
So they came and
we're thinking about flying home from Vegas. We're like, should we go?
Yeah, we were panicking. But then at the end of the day, I was like, if I'm there, I'm going to be chewing my fingernails off, like freaking out, stressed. So it's probably better to just like handle it without us there. And we got through it. It was 2 days. Like sometimes they'll stay for a week. So like it was starting to do that with the mic, but knock on wood, it was good, man. Like it was tough. So the big thing is like, aside from the complexity and how hard the parts are, that's like a whole other, like being able to make what we make and what the guys at Axial do and how talented they are to produce the parts that they make on the machines. It's like, it's hard to explain how hard it is. The barriers to entry are so high.
Yeah,
like
the
getting
market
through the FDA and the time and the money and the amount of questions that they ask you are just like, it's crazy.
So you need to have a combination of that and then the right people. Mm-hmm. So I mean, people at the end of the day, and
it's the most important thing is having the right people.
Yeah, it's key.
That and also like I've seen your guys shop, like the like level of machinery required to even make these things. Like it's got to be like an insane operation to even get started in that type of business before you can even go out and recruit the right people that know how to do this stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So we so it's our entire facility is filled with CNC equipment. It's all CNC machines, different mills and lathes, turning equipment, milling equipment. Which, to be honest, I always say something like, I don't even know that I would know what a CNC machine is if I didn't grow up how I grew up. Like, I don't know that I would know this is a CNC machine and this is what it can do.
What is a CNC machine?
I'll let you dive into that a little bit more.
So it's basically, it's the machines that we use to make the parts, right? So the best way to describe it to someone who wouldn't know is
it's really computer generated.
Yeah, it's a computer controlled machine that will have a cutting tool in it, a drill, an end mill, like, like a drill bit. Imagine like a drill bit. And basically the programmer will write a program. The machine doesn't do anything by itself. These machines do nothing by themselves. This is why it's so hard. Every machine has different capabilities. Every machine's really good at making certain parts, right? Like some machines are better at making like long round parts like a screw. Other machines are better at making like flat parts like a plate that would go on your foot or your hand. And basically the programmer writes a program that tells the machine where the tip of the tool is in space and like how fast to go down, how fast to make cuts, how deep to make cuts, at what angle. So the programmer writes this program. It's a computer program. It's all written off of a 3D model, right? And it takes days to write a program, sometimes weeks. Once the program is written, it's ready to be set up, right? And the programmer, when he's telling the machine what to do, he's also telling the machine what tools he's putting into the machine. So he says, hey, machine, this is a drill. Hey, machine, this is an end mill. Hey, machine, this is a saw. So at the end of the day, he makes a list and there's like, okay, we need 30 different tools to make this part. Then he has to tell the machine like where the tip of the tool is in space, because the machine doesn't know anything. The machines are dumb. They just do exactly what you tell them. So they don't ever make a mistake. Like if something happens, if a machine crashes, 99.99% of the time, it's human error.
Yeah.
So then it's ready for setup. So he has this program, but it's just like a USB stick, right? And you just like plug it into the machine and you just like load the program, but it doesn't do anything until like the setup guy So then there's like another guy who is like a whole different type of talent than a programmer. A lot of times there's crossover, but the setup guy then loads the tools into the machine as the programmer said. He'll load the program, and then the program has like operations. So the first operation could be like bring down a drill and start to drill a hole.
Mhm.
And then the second operation could be like bring out an end mill and like interpolate this hole, make it bigger. So he steps through this like line by line, and setting up a job could take you 3 days because
Damn.
yeah, like just because you got to watch to make sure this machine is going to do exactly what the programmer thinks it's going to do. So the skill of a setup guy is basically like this thing's called G code. So like it's not like it's man readable text. It's like G56 X1 Y minus O1 C54. Like it's just like numbers and text. But these programmers and setup guys can like read this like it's a language. Like they look at this stuff and they know what the machine's going to do. Like a good setup guy he can read it like a language. So what he's doing is he's standing in front of the machine. The machine has a computer screen. He's watching the computer screen scroll through text, and he's like looking at the next line, and he like hits go and he looks at the next line to make sure. He's like, okay, this thing is going to dive 2 inches, but the part is half an inch away. There's going to be a collision.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll like stop it. He'll go back to the programmer and be like, hey, programmer, like, is this right? Like, you want to crash the machine? I'm like, oh shit, no. Like, and they fix it together.
How expensive is an error if one does happen? A
Yeah,
lot.
60
bad.
Yeah.
Plus.
60 grand.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I mean, obviously it varies depending on how bad it is, but you could get these machines will go up in flames. Like you'll have fires.
Fires happen.
I have pictures somewhere I'll show you guys after, but like we had a fire and it blows out the entire shop with smoke. Like, and that's going to cost you because it costs you on downtime too, which like good luck figuring out that math,
fixing the
right?
machine. Yeah.
But just to fix the nuts and bolts of the machine, like
They're $1 million.
Yeah.
Like a machine's $1 million.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a bunch of Bugattis like that are all over. It's crazy.
As we always compare them to cars. Like we'll have, like we got some Toyotas in there, we have some Acuras in there, and then we got some Ferraris. Like so, there's different
That's
levels
wild.
to like because it depends on the part, right? You want the best machine for the parts that you're
And there's
going
other new
after.
stuff that they have. There's a software we use called Vericut. It's stupid expensive too.
Obviously, technology just blew this space
6
up.
figures to have this software, but it saves you from collisions. You basically pay this company and they make a 3D model of your exact machine and your exact tools that you're going to put in the part in the machine. And you can run like a 3D simulation and it'll tell you if a collision is going to happen before you get out there. So we didn't used to do that, but now we got into really complex parts. So
and really expensive
5
machines.
years ago. Yeah. Once we got the really expensive machines we started.
We
So
should
probably
probably
5-6
get
years
this.
ago we bought
Cheap
that
insurance
software.
policy.
Yeah.
That's helped a lot.
Yeah.
So I want to take a step back here. So this is obviously where you guys are at now. So what was it like when you guys first got started, like in the business? Talk a little bit about, coming out of college. Was this something that you guys thought you were going to do right away? Or, one thing I want to dive into was like your guys' personal experience as far as, because I know both of you didn't start working for the family. So like talk a little bit about your individual experiences and what led you guys to be like, let's actually go down this path.
I mean, for me, I think it's a funny story. I forget who brought it up to my dad, but I think in my 8th grade yearbook, it has like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said like run my dad's company or something like that.
That's
And I'm
cool.
like all into sports and all that stuff. So like, and you think as a kid, you're going to say like, be a professional football player
That's
or do
sick.
something like this.
Yeah.
And it literally says run my dad's company. I think it was Mr. Barada or somebody brought it up to my dad. Like this was like a year ago and he like sent a picture of the yearbook. And I was like,
so
that's
cool,
pretty
dude.
crazy.
Yes.
So, I mean, always in the back of my mind, obviously it was something that I just felt like passionate about it. But going through school, I think it was made pretty clear to us like that, my dad isn't the type of person. And I mean, he did things the right way, in my opinion. He wasn't the type of person that was just going to say like, hey, roll here. You're good. I got you. Put my arm around you. And this is that. And we got you taken care of. Like it was, there's no shot you're coming here after school. Go figure it out. Go figure it out.
That was like a reality check because he sold that business. He sold Vistech when I was in college. I was like, shit, I got to get a real job. Damn. So it was the best thing ever.
But yeah, for me, like honestly, it's the way, I mean, again, this is my opinion. I think it was the best way to go about it. Go out, have a manager up your butt a little bit. That isn't your dad. Cause there's complexities when it comes to family businesses and other, like, as you know,
to be honest, it's way harder than working for like a regular company. Like a family business is
it just adds a
Hard.
layer to it that is like when you go home and you talk to like your girlfriend, wife, and kids, like you kind of go home and you talk about how was your day at work, how was this? So it's literally just 24/7. That was our whole life, really. To be like, that was it. Like you'd come home and you're talking to your dad about work, so he never escaped it. And then like after school you're living together, and there was a period where I lived at home, worked at Axial, and like Vin moved home from the city, and it's like we're all in the same house, and like you can't escape it. And like there's a beauty to it in the business front, because it's like you really are on, like you're not 24/7, but you're on until you go to sleep. So it's all you're talking about, and maybe it's unhealthy in certain ways. But we like
obsession's a good thing.
It was good. It was good. I mean, there was good and bad to it, but mainly good.
Yeah.
But anyways, getting back on track, like working outside of the family business, I think was important for me to just like realize, try to just like do something on my own a little bit, grow up in that way, make my own path. And it was short lived for me just because Axial blew up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I was happy at my job. I liked it. It was good. And I just it was literally, I was in my room and I got a knock on the door, and it was like, hey, like we need you to come over. Like, and I was interning there like part-time. Maybe not interning, but I was working there part-time. I was doing like both gigs, little part-time here, helping out and I didn't really know. I knew at some point I would probably end up going.
Like work at Axial and work there.
Like, so I was just doing both, and it was awesome.
Same happened to me.
I mean, because I was doing great for myself.
Oh,
like, double dipping, kind of. Sorry, Pella. I literally got a knock on the door, and it was like the next 2 days later, I like called my manager. I was like, hey, like
I gotta quit.
I gotta give my 2 weeks now. Like, and I had like just this big project that DeLucas gave me, and I was like, I was nervous because he gave me I was still new in that business, and
that was an awesome house,
and it was a big house that he was ready to build, and he gave me a chance, and I was like, I got to see this out. Like, I don't know if I should do it, but I was like, I slept on it. I was like, I'm calling my manager tomorrow.
I was like, dude, those windows.
So but it was good. Again, for me, it was something that I obviously was always in the back of my mind, maybe even more in the forefront of my mind, that it was something I wanted to do. I liked it. I always thought it was interesting. It was a whole new world that it's really crazy, the technology aspect of it. You go in there and it's insane. It's like a museum. And the technology is crazy. So I always cared about it. I always liked it. But working outside was important to just, get a different life experience and grow up a little different, get away from family a little bit with work, because mix that your whole life, it's not always great.
Yeah. Now, Vin, how about you? Because you obviously worked in the medical device field actually before.
Mine was
Axial.
crazy.
Talk about your experience.
He sold that business when I was a sophomore, I think. So then I was like, oh shit, what am I going to do? I was like, I'm going to go into finance. So I like ended up getting a job at Merrill Lynch. And then I was like, I don't want to do finance. Like, I'll do something different. Like, it's not exactly what I love. Like, I want to sell. I want to do some things. So I took a job at Merrill Lynch, and then I interviewed with, I forget the name of the company. The guy was so nice, and I've like randomly emailed him occasionally. I forget his name, but I took a job at like a bracing company. And then at the same time, I probably sent out 400 out. I'm not kidding. Like literally, like every medical device job, pharmaceuticals, like everywhere I was applying. And I like quickly realized that they were saying no to me because I was so young. So one of the ladies called me, and she was like, yeah, like you're just too young. Like, sorry. And I'm like, oh shit. All right. Let me take some stuff off my resume. So I like took my graduating year off my resume. I just like, I changed like my VizTech, like as an intern, I put like sales rep. I just like bullshitted my resume. And then
which everyone does nowadays.
Oh yeah, dude. So it was like total
You're
bullshit.
I
mean, it wasn't total bullshit. The shit happened. I just didn't give him like a yearly
different timelines.
Yeah. So like I took out my graduating year, or like I acted like I was already graduated college.
Yeah.
I acted like I was a sales rep at VizTech. I wrote like VizTech Medical, and I embellished. And then I started getting calls, and then I like botched like the first few interviews. One was with the company Zimmer, which is like a competitor to Stryker. Botched it. It was just like hard questions. Totally didn't know what I was getting myself into. The next one was a J&J trauma sales rep. I did better on that interview, but I was too young. Like I was like, yeah, sorry. And I'm like, shit, what else can I do? And then I got I was actually at Matt McVeigh, who works with us now. I was at his house, and I was drunk. Like it was middle of the day. It was like Saturday, and my phone rings, and it was this lady, Judy Diener, I think is her name. And she interviewed me for Stryker, and I was like, I had like 5 beers in me. I just like killed this interview.
Crushed.
And then I was like, and she was like, hey, she asked me how old I was. And I was like, hey, like, I just rather not tell you. Like, it'll be a surprise when I meet you. I tried to like make a joke out of it. And she was like, all right. She like kind of laughed. She knew. And I said, like, is there anything I can do to like help push me through? And she was like, yeah, like if you know any sales reps or you know people, like start getting in touch with people at Stryker. And I went to grade school with this kid whose dad is an orthopedic surgeon. I called him. He happened to use Stryker, and I met this guy, Matt Powers. And Matt Powers just like pushed me through these interviews. Like he like, I wouldn't have never had that job if I didn't take her advice and then call Matt. And if this guy Matt, I still love him. He's like one of my close friends, and he's a psychopath. And if he didn't like strap me to his back, I would have never got that job. So then I graduated. I called Merrill Lynch. I was like, yo, I'm out. Like, sorry, thank you for the offer. I appreciate it, but I'm going to Stryker. They hired me for Hazleton. And when I went in, I was like, yo, listen, by the way, like, I'm not going to work at Hazleton. I'm going to work. After they hired me, after I accepted the offer, I was like, yeah, I'm not going. And they're like, well, that's the area we hired you for. And this is like, it speaks to Matt. He's a psycho. He's like, yeah, no, but I need him too. So we're going to keep him in Bucks County. In a few years, we'll break off a piece of my territory and give it to him. Matt's like, I'm not breaking off any of my He's like, we'll tell him that. So they kept me down there. And I was the youngest and last full line rep they ever hired. So I sold trauma products. So like if you break a bone, I sold the screws and the plates. And then I also sold recon. So like if you get your knee replaced, your hip replaced, I sold that stuff. And that opened my eyes up to like a whole other industry that my dad wasn't in. We're like a local spine company, and spine volumes are not great. They're like low. So it's like 10 pieces of this, 25 pieces of that, just because there's not many spine surgeries. I mean, enough that it's still millions of dollars a year, which is great, but it's not trauma volumes where you're like, you get an order for screws and it's like, hey, we need 30,000 of this screw for this year. And you can set up a bunch of machines. Yeah. Forget them, let them run in production. So now I'm in Stryker and I like see all these parts and I'm like, my mind's blown. I'm like, holy shit, like somebody's got to make these things. So then I was like, let me see the plant. I went to like the Stryker plant. I was not impressed. Like the one I went to, there's other ones that are beautiful. I'm like, dude, we can do this. So at the time, my dad was still working for Vistech, and like I was pretty much a year into Stryker, I was already getting the itch to be out because I was very much like one of 24,000 employees. They didn't give a shit about me. I was young. Like I was like the kid who like, he'll do anything. So,
and you're also like you're getting abused in that industry. You're working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I would literally like sleep in hospitals, like legit. Like, so now I was full line. So recon surgeries are scheduled. They're from like 7 a.m.
Recon's like reconstruction
surgeries. They're scheduled. And those are like the big docs. Like those are the docs that like swing a big hammer. They do what the fuck they want at those hospitals. And they're like, hey, we're working from 7 to 4 and that's it. Like, so those cases are sweet. And those guys who have recon rep jobs, like, dude, they're home every day at 3 p.m. Like and they make bank.
Yeah.
But I also had trauma. So then trauma kicks off after recon. And it's like, whenever they get to it, they get to it. So like a lot of times I'd be in the hospital till like 3 a.m. I'm in Princeton, New Jersey, got an hour ride home to be back there at 6 a.m. I'm like, fuck it, I'll just sleep at the hospital. So like I legit would like sleep in my car. I'd sleep in the ORs, like eating like they have graham crackers with like peanut butter and jelly. Like at that time, cafeterias are closed. Like they figured out like when to buy food and bring food for myself eventually. But in the beginning, it was just like bullshit. I was like, this is brutal. So like about a year in, I started pinging my dad like, yo, we should start doing this. And like, we can do it. There's shit other than spine out there that's way better. And like someone makes these plates and someone makes these screws, and there's no chance that Stryker makes all the shit themselves. Now we don't work with Stryker today, maybe one day.
Yeah.
So then he also kind of got screwed when he sold his business. He sold it for an amount. He didn't have a team around him. Like the biggest thing in exiting is like,
lawyer,
have a team. You need an accountant, you need a lawyer, you need an investment banker. He had his accountant
he had
was like 70.
He had an accountant. I don't think
he's never done that shit before.
Yeah.
You know,
and the
you know what I
accountant
mean?
reviewed what the lawyer should have been doing. And
he didn't know.
Support himself. It was his first time. It was his first show at it. Lesson learned.
So in hindsight, like that was also a great lesson for him to learn, because he learned, okay, next time I do this, like I'm not hiring my 70-year-old accountant to do this shit. Like we need a team. So he sold the business, and like they had an earn out, and there was like all these fine print that he didn't pay attention to. And he basically walked away with half of what they promised him. And like he knew early on that they were going to fuck him. And like my dad is like me, Nicky in a way too. Like I'm driven by like revenge and fueled by anger. You need an enemy. Yeah. Like that's what drives me. So like right away, as soon as I started playing, he was like, fuck these guys. Like, let's do it. So he started thinking, and then his non-compete wears out. It runs out. He buys a building. I'm still at Stryker. He's still thinking, he's like, I don't know if we should do this. It's such a risk. Like he's retired at this point, doing whatever he wants to do. He doesn't want to get back into it. And then I got boned so hard at Stryker. And at this point, we were like, this is 2012. No, this is 2014 is when I got boned to Stryker, and when that was our first year in business. So at that point, Stryker bought a company called Mako Robotics, and they sell a robot that'll do the knee surgery for the doctor, essentially. And like some doctors love it because they're like, all right, this robot knows where everything is in space. The cuts are going to be perfect. So like if you love the robot, like it's all you use, and patients will come to you because a lot of people are like, yeah, I want the robot to do my knee, not a guy. But other guys are like, this robot, like I'm way better than this robot. And they never are. Like, they're butchers compared to this like robot. This robot's perfect every time. So we bought this company. Long story short, with the help of a very busy surgeon at Princeton, Dr. Smyers, we sold a robot, and we were getting pushed like, sell this robot, it's $1 million. And I was 24, and on the robot you get a 10% commission. So I had $100,000. I was like on top of the other money I made, I was like, I'm fucking rich. I was building a house in the city at the time, and like legit, I told Dr. Smyers that a really shitty hospital a few miles south of him in Hamilton was getting a robot. And I was like, dude, if they get this robot, like they're going to pull patients from Princeton, a really nice, rich area. They're going to pull your patients. Like, you guys got to get a robot. And he's like, all right. And Princeton has a ton of money. He's like, let's go talk to the like exec committee. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like I thought it was just going to be like an intro meeting. So Dr. Smyers walks us up to like the CEO of the hospital. We're in his office. I'm in scrubs. I have like no business being there. And he's like, yeah, tell him about the robot. I'm like, I don't know anything about it. It's like, it's like $1 million. It does the surgery for you. It's like
Placed
great for marketing. Yeah. I was like, and that was like my sale. I was like, Robert Wood Johnson, Hamilton's getting one. That hospital's a piece of shit. And the guy was like, all right, how much are they? $1 million? He's like, yeah. He's like, all right, do you have an invoice or something? Can I get you a PO? I'm like, yeah, let me talk to my team.
Back.
Yeah. I'm like, I called my manager. I'm like, yo, like these guys want a robot. I need you here now. Like it was a total accidental sale.
Do we have any robots?
Yeah, literally was what it was like.
Are we actually selling this thing yet?
Yeah. So we sold the first robot to him, and then everyone's all pumped up. Like I was building a house at the time, and I wasn't gonna get a roof deck because the roof deck was like $40,000. And I'm like, yo, put the roof deck on. I called the builder. He's like, all right. So I signed the contract, and then dude, a few months later, like 2 months after, I'm like, where's my paycheck? Like, I just sold this thing. It's not installed. Like, oh, you'll get it installed. And then long story short, at the time, we weren't integrated yet with Mako. So the Mako rep got paid. Or would have gotten paid. I threw a grenade in that shit before I left. I told Dr. Smyers they're screwing me. They're paying this other guy. Like, I don't know what's going on. I'd be nervous. They ended up getting it a few months later, and this guy got paid anyway. But at the time, I was like, fuck yeah, I threw a hand grenade in there, blew the deal up. They just did it without me anyway. But dude, I was like actually crying like a girl. Like I was so sad. Like I just got fucked so hard. Like that's when I realized that like they don't care about you at all.
Well, $100,000's also life-changing money. At
Yeah.
that 20. Yeah, you're like
24.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I called the rep, and my manager was like, yeah, sorry, like, you're gonna have to work it out with the rep. Yeah. And like I was
Roof deck's already built.
yeah. Like I was like stretching myself thin for that house already. And then I like called him to the roof deck, and then like 3 weeks later, or not 3 weeks, like 3 months later, 2 months later, I found out that I'm not getting paid. I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
Had to borrow money from my dad for the roof deck that I agreed to buy that I don't have money for now. But my manager, who was pushing us to sell, I was like, yo, you were pushing us to sell this robot. Like, now I'm not going to get paid. He's like, yeah, you just got to call the rep and work it out with them. And I called the rep, and he's basically like, fuck you. I don't know who you are. I'm not getting paid. I'm going to do the install. And I'm like, you wouldn't have sold it without me. He's like, yes, I would have. And he just like hung the phone up. Never met the guy. Like, and he got the commission on it. I was like, fuck this. I'm out. So I told my dad, I was like, yo, like at the time I was already working at Axial, like working at Stryker and working at Axial for about a year. And then I was like, yo, I'm coming on full time. And, I called my manager, and like running a territory is like, it's kind of like, it's you act like it's a bigger deal than it is. It's not that big of a deal. They replaced me, and I was fine. You feel like a couple months impact when the rep leaves. But I called my manager. I was like, yo, I quit. Like, I'm out. He's like, you can't just quit. He's like, you got to give me notice. And I'm like, no, I'm not giving you notice. Like, today's my last day. I'm out. So I didn't even give him notice. And then he was like, then it was like a whole shitstorm. HR called me. His big boss called me. I need to give him 3 months. I need to give him that. I was like, I'll give you 2 weeks. And then they started like trying to have me drive. I gave them like 3 days. Like after the third day, they were calling me to like go to Princeton. To,
My
like,
phone
fuck
doesn't
this.
work.
I'm out.
Stop
Like,
charging your phone.
Figure it the fuck out, guys. That was brutal.
I think that was another good. I forgot about the point when he bought the building too. Just like another quick little tidbit there. Of like
Yeah,
my
sorry, I
dad,
just
it's like go get a job out of here. It's not happening. Like go work somewhere else. but he buys that building and it's like, yeah, go figure out your job. But hey, I need you. Like that concert that you want to go to on Saturday, like you got to go wheelbarrow all this dirt around. You got to help me with that. So that's like the type of dude he was. And it wasn't like,
yeah, Nikki and Anthony were landscapers.
There was never like, and it was like the time, we're in high school, college, and like, you want to go to a concert, you want to do this, you want to go that. And he's like, I don't care at all. Like, you're going to be here and we're going to do this. And there was no getting around it for me. Like, it wasn't a choice I had. But it's just funny to think that that's how he was. It was go get a job out here, but oh wait, I need you now. So like, you're coming here after work too. I'm like, great.
So, you start working for your dad, obviously.
Mhm.
What was that transition like coming from, where you guys are at, and obviously, to where you guys are at today? We'll get into it in a little bit of like, hey, you guys just sold the business and you're still working there. But,
Mhm.
What was that progression like from like day one to the point where you guys are, obviously running the company? Like, how did that evolve over time?
I would say for me, so I came on in like 2017 or sometime around then, 2017, I think at the end, that's when we graduated. So I think that's when I started part-time. So 2017, 2018, it was very much him and my dad actually both, because at that point he's been there for a few years. So I was really just like reporting to him in a way. It wasn't really, my dad was more hands off. He had just certain projects that he was working on at that time, and certain things that he was doing. He was worried about, numbers and specific project that he considered like his baby, basically. But for me, it was pretty much like feet to the fire. Like, hey, here's what we do. Here's how we do it. Go figure it out. Like, if you have a better way, like come to me with it or implement it and go. So it was very much, hands off. I didn't feel like shackled in any way. There were certain times where I'm just going out there making decisions and running with it. Like, you're going to make mistakes along the way. And that's really what happens. And like, maybe I say something to a customer I shouldn't have said initially, or or something, you're going to make mistakes. Right. But it was a very hands-off approach of, here's what we do. Here's the role that we need you to fill. This is where we're weak. This is how we do it now.
Strap in.
Good luck, brother.
Yeah. And that was it. And you just kind of go around and you figure out, what impacts that part of the business, and you just kind of dive into it and take hacks, take a couple hacks and see what sticks. And some stuff sticks out to you a little bit right away, and other stuff takes some time and you make some mistakes. But it was definitely a hands-off approach by them. And they just kind of just let me run. Which was nice. It wasn't manager up your ass anymore. It was, hey, this needs to be done, and who's doing it? It's you.
Yeah.
Like, figure it out. And it better be a good way.
And over the course of the last like 5 years, like what were some of the like major like highs and lows along the way? Like, you talk about like, hey, just figure it out. I'm sure there are some points where you're like, damn, that was awesome. And other times you're like, fuck, I just really dropped the ball.
Yeah. All right. So the one that I think about is
I'm excited to hear this.
We had you definitely maybe you remember the story, but I mean, I'm new. I'm like a year into this, and I'm working with like who is our biggest customer. It's now they're mine to manage now. Like, he's basically transitioning them to me, right? So I'm handling a lot of like the day-to-day communication back and forth, and they up rev our. Or like, I don't really know what they're fishing at yet. Now I would have seen it a million miles away, but they want us to send a sample part.
Dude, I remember this.
They want us to send a component of a part. So a lot of the parts that we make will be made up of like 7, 8, 10 different things, and you assemble them and put them together. So we make something that looks like a scissor jack, and it's a very big part of our business. They were more or less fishing for information, and I didn't really see it. They asked me for a sample of a part. They just want a component. So we never sell components. We're selling you the full assembly when it's done. They just want one piece of this. They want one of the 8. So I'm like, all right, like,
give them what they need,
chop
man.
it up, send it out. Here you go. So I send it to them, and they get back to us like, hey, like, is this how you've been doing it? Like, this isn't in spec, blah, blah, blah. It causes like a whole shitstorm of the part that I sent them isn't in spec, and how are we putting this in their stuff?
I'm like,
and
no,
blah,
Nikki
blah,
made
blah.
that part.
And so I just have to lie like, hey, yeah, like it's a piece that's just like a little circle, and it's like a plastic piece, and you cut it on a certain angle, and like you're supposed to have it, and everything's really precise. It's like a 45-degree angle plus or minus like 0.5 degrees. And I just go in there and I just like cut one. Like, I'm just like, I don't know that we have a little fixture. Like, I don't know. I just did it, and I sent it to him and just moved along. And like a week later, my inbox is, I'm just getting flooded with stuff.
Blew up.
People are up his butt now, and then they're up mine. And I'm like, oh no. So then, long story short, it was like a really shitty 2 weeks of just like dealing with like the backlash of that. And like, are you putting bad parts into this assembly? And Like, are you doing something behind our backs that we shouldn't know? You should be making parts to print, right? We're giving you the prints, make them to print. Why are you doing something else? You shouldn't deviate. And
we had to just be like, Nikki just cut this to give you one. Like, this isn't what we make. He's like, well, why would you send us something you don't make? Yeah, and it was just like it
turned into a thing. Like, I thought this is how we did it. I didn't want to like bother anybody with it. It seemed simple enough. I went, I sliced it.
I literally pictured like a paper cutter.
It was like, it's an exact knife.
So I
literally
this
like
part.
what it was.
This piece is so tiny. It seems so insignificant to me. But that was like my first real like.
That was a good
like
one,
this is like a lesson. Like, be careful what you do and be careful what you know. Maybe let's ask some questions before we just jump at certain things, especially when customers come into play. But it was a couple crappy weeks for them to just finally accept the answer of Nick just cut this how he thought it was done, and that's that. And no, we aren't putting in bad components into your parts. We're making them to print.
And he's no longer allowed on the floor.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I won't touch your parts anymore. Like, whatever.
My bad. I'll just ship them.
That was a low for me. High. I mean, obviously, we just went through this acquisition within the last year, like 6 months ago, 8 months ago, whatever it is now. That was great. But one thing that I think about is the expansion that we did in 2019.
Yeah, that's great.
That was awesome because that was like planned. We talked as like a family and as a business, and like that's planned for 2021, 2022.
Yep, 21.
And 2019 rolls around, and we're like.
We're full.
We're kicking our neighbor out that my dad was renting half the building to somebody else, and we're kicking him out. We're ready to roll. So our business just blew up that year. Like,
yeah, it's crazy.
It was mayhem. Like, it was crazy. There was a couple years in a row where we were just growing. Like, it was hard to stomach.
Like 78% growth.
Like, like crazy
shit,
growth.
Dude.
Like we were damn near doubling like year after year, and it was difficult, but it was fun as hell. It was really fun.
Where did that growth come from?
I would say just new
market and sales. Like, so like that part of the reason my dad sold VizTech was that he did everything not everything by himself, but he had a team around him. Some of the team was great. And some of that team is at Axial now, but a huge chunk of the team was just like dead weight. Like, they just didn't like have the passion, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like to grow and be successful, like you got to really care. So it just became like exhausting for him. Like, he didn't have a sales team. Like, he just kind of, he's like an engineer. He's not an introvert, but like his thing isn't selling. Like, it's just not what he likes to do. And then like neither is number. And there's
he doesn't want to work in the ERP system.
He
doesn't want to do accounting.
Like detail shit like that. Like, he's a
project
oriented
guy.
Yeah. And that was exhausting for him at VizTech. So then now, like, we just have a new team at Axial, and it's like only the best guys. Like, everyone at Axial is an absolute killer. Like, from like our custodian, like up to our best programmer, they're all like love what they do, and they're all savages, and they're all so good. So that was a big thing. When I came in, it was the same thing as Nick. My dad was like, "Oh, I came in, and I was like, oh, my job that I was pitched was like, you're gonna do sales." I'm like, "Cool." And then like 4 days, maybe a week, 2 weeks into me coming on Axial full time, my dad let our director of operations at the time go. And he's like, "Yeah, you're gonna do director of ops too." Like
that's like the old bait and switch on you.
That's a him move to a T. Like, figure it out. Here's a bomb. Like, he's the grenade. He's throwing this
fucking guy.
I'm gonna give you 2 jobs, and you're gonna get paid half.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm not gonna do that. Like, I'm not helping either. Like, he's like, it's a figure it out. Like, which is awesome. Like, looking at the time, obviously you like want to punch him, right?
Yeah.
But sucks, when you look back at
in
it
the
now,
moment, you're so pissed.
Incredible. You know.
Yeah, because it teaches you so much.
Yeah, you like, just trial by fire.
I'm like a 30-year-old, 33 now, but like with like a 60-year-old business acumen. Like, I'm like
been through all
triple
the
black belt. Like, I'm like, I got it all. I've been through everything. So like I don't know if it's arrogant, but I feel like I've learned. I'm pretty well advanced because of that though. It's just because it's like, figure it out. Like, he gave me 60-year-old problems. He's like, "Here you go. Like, you're a director of ops now. You got to talk to customers. You got to figure out with the FDA." And then 2 years later, our director of quality, who was a great guy, he left. And he was like, "Oh, you're going to be our quality guy now too." And I was like, "Dude, I'm doing sales, ops, quality. Like, this is brutal.
Like a different world.
And quality's like, that's not what I'm used to. It's like next level. It's the FDA. Like, now I'm dealing with the FDA. I was a sales guy. Like,
yeah, that looks good.
Yeah.
That looks like a screw to me.
Yeah. Like, look at your measure it with a ruler.
Yeah. So like, that was tough, dude. But it teaches you a lot.
So obviously you end up running the business. Let's talk through, you guys just went through a sale. Like, what was that process like? Talk about a little bit about, as much as you guys wanted to dive into about, obviously international company, all that kind of stuff. What's that process been like for you guys? And, where's your head at now that you've done it over the past year?
Mm-hmm. I'll briefly touch on it. I also want to add a new low of due diligence, not Not what
bro.
not what I just mentioned. Due diligence is like an all-time low. Like that is
So hard.
it's just such a grind. Like it's just you add a second job to your life, maybe even like a third at times. Because we were thin. So due diligence was really tough.
And for people who don't know what due diligence is, explain that for a second.
It's basically like they're just coming in, uncovering everything. Like they just want to know everything
during
about
the
your
acquisition
business.
process.
Yeah. So it's literally they want to know how you run your business. A lot of it's numbers driven, right? Like, and none of us are accountants, like we mentioned, and we didn't really give a crap about the accounting side of it. We saw we were making money, and we were happy with that. We don't care if a dollar goes in this bucket or if a dollar goes in that bucket.
Are we growing? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just there. But they're just literally uncovering everything, like with a fine tooth comb, trimming through your business. You're pulling documents from 2014 that you didn't even remember you had. Like you're just going through finding all sorts of stuff.
And their job is to find problems.
That's
like,
what they're hired
To
to
drive the value.
Yeah, they're hired
Yes.
auditors. Like if an auditor comes in and they go back to the company, they're like, everything's great. Like, and that you didn't do your job.
Yeah, it's a
like,
bad- it's a
they're
bad
coming
job.
in to find you. They're coming in to find you. But that from due diligence, and we were going through due diligence back in like 2020, I think we started, maybe 2019 even. So we were in the process for quite a while before we sold. But we started with a company. We got real far, close to like we got to a letter of intent with them.
International
a different
company.
international company, right? That fell off after for various reasons. And then basically this company came around in August of 2022.
That's right.
So we were just fresh off of due diligence, right? So now it's like, all right, like we could handle another.
We
due
just went
diligence.
through it.
And we're just so used
Like,
to it.
dude,
now.
that last due diligence, we took it to the goal line.
Yeah.
Like, we were like at the goal line. We had like our final offer from them. We were like,
we walked
and
away.
both teams were like, this isn't going to work. A personality mismatch is ultimately what it came down to between them and us.
Yeah. So at least me personally, I just kind of got used to that life of like that, like what felt like two jobs for like 2 years. Like I'm not an accountant by any means, but I can kind of like you figure it out after a while, and you're pulling numbers together. They're asking me to like rationalize like EBITDA, and like I'm like learning all this stuff, and I'm like, listen, like this isn't really me, but here's what I can tell you. And so you get used to it. And then this company, like I said, they came along in August of 2022. So fortunately for us, we just went through that long due diligence process for about a year. We were like, at least felt like we're going to go into this one. We're like 80, 90% done.
Is what that one was.
Yeah. And we were like, we're going to be 80, 90% done. We're going to have everything. Like we basically had this whole data room, or not basically, we had this whole data room already populated with documents. So once we got through we met them in August. We then went out to visit them in September. And we basically, once we signed the letter of intent, we were just like, take the keys to the data room. Let us know what else you need. So that one obviously ended up going much more smooth, but you're also 2 years prepared.
Yeah.
And
we signed the day after Christmas for that one.
Yeah. Started in August. Was it July?
Letter of intent. I think was signed September 26th.
Letter of intent was September
27th, and then we signed the deal by Christmas.
So that was quick.
Yeah,
so like
crazy.
Our first meeting, like we had a Zoom meeting.
Like it was like it could have been 8 months.
Yeah.
But it was just like
they're really good people. Yeah.
They're like, we're getting this done before year end, and we were like, so are we.
Yeah. So we were all
Everyone
like the
was
stars
strapped in.
aligned for us. Like it was perfect. Just timing, everything made sense. But from August to January closing is like it's quick. Like it's very, very quick. But it worked out. But I think that would have went on probably a year plus if we didn't have that previous due diligence. So everything just kind of worked out. Now it's awesome. The people are great.
The company. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the one thing you guys mentioned was you guys said you just found out there was private investigators following you guys around throughout the process.
Yeah.
Me, Nikki, and my dad.
Yeah, we had no clue.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously,
they told us
like,
everything. So
what
what
was
PIs?
like? What were they looking for?
So like
they were like
lies. They look for lies. So like they'll look for, and I swear to God, I told my wife, Carol, remember the story. I called her because I felt like there was like a car following me, and I like it followed me like out of Axial, and now the drive from Axial to my house is 3 miles, so it's not long. But I'm like, I just picked up this car, and I'm like kind of a weird guy, like I'm like shit like that. Like I pay attention to a lot of stuff that's happening around me like all the time, and I'm like, yo, Carol, like I called her. I was like, yo, get my gun because I think this car's following me. So I called her and she's like, what the hell? So I like turn into my neighborhood. And as I turn in, this car just like hits the brakes. And I'm like, fuck, this thing's going to turn. And it just like slowed down as I turned in. And I'm just like watching him in the rearview mirror. And he just like kept going straight. But I came back. I was like spooked. And And then like months later, they told me that. I'm like, dude, it was definitely the PI. And this dude stinks because I spotted it right away.
They're literally just like, they're like pulling your record though. Like, what do you have?
Tickets.
Like, are you going? Do you have a DUI? Do you have this? Like, what kind of? They're trying to figure out. Like,
but
have
they
want to
like
what kind of guys?
Right.
They want to see like, all right, this dude says like, because you get to know these people. They're like, all right, Vin likes to hunt. He likes the gym. He likes jiu-jitsu, and he likes work and his family. That's what he says he does. But like, if they're like, they find out I'm going to the bars, or they find out like I'm going to Kensington, they're gonna be like, we're out. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they want to make sure you're not like a undercover drug addict. They want to make sure that you're not like, they just did due diligence on another company and they found out the guy was like lying about his college degrees, which is like, they don't care about college degree. Obviously they bought a company for my father, doesn't have one, but like,
why are you lying?
Why are you lying?
Yeah.
So
just like,
they're going to business with good people.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
The one thing that they came up with that he was like, he like texted me because I didn't, he was talking to him. He found out about the private investigator. So I don't know if they, but anyways, the CEO that we talked to now is, he just texted me. He's like, you don't like stopping at stop signs. Like sent me like a, because I like ran a stop sign at, like by, right by my house basically. And he gave me like the intersection. I'm like, I didn't even get a ticket for that, but I guess they like put it in as a
they
warning.
get like a crazy, it's expensive.
But it's funny.
But he said, he's like, you two are boring. Like,
I
never got
like
arrested. I never had
sign.
anything bad happen to me.
Yeah.
I had a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
And they're like, some of the shit we find is crazy.
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, they said,
right?
they told us a couple of good stories of things.
So how has that
just
been
funny.
with the company acquiring you guys now? You're about a year into it. So like working with them, how's that
Dude, they're
dynamic
awesome.
change? Like just like the funding, the operations, like where the companies, where you guys are going now, like what does that look like?
We're a big company now. Like we'll probably do close to $30 million next year. And it was time for us to sell for that reason too. Like you can like Vistech, when my father sold Vistech, he was doing, I think it was about 7, maybe just under 7 million. And we're doing like over 20, close to 30. And it's just like, it's another level. Like so we're already in uncharted territory. And then to push from 20 to 50, like we already pushed from 7 to 20 by ourselves. Like that was crazy. Now pushing from 20 to 50 is like next level. We've never been there. It's like, that's like new layers and stuff. And we thought it would be smarter and best for the people at Axial, for us, for like the family, for the business, for everyone to just do it with a partner. And these guys are like awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The best story I tell is like before when we wanted to buy a machine, like it'd be like Nick and me and my dad. And we're like, yeah, you guys want to buy some Citizens? We're like, yeah, how much are they? Like 350 grand. He's like, all right, let's buy 3. It's like, that was it. Like done.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
The decisions happen like at dinner.
Or
like
literally.
It would just
my
be
dad
quick.
like, you got the sales for him?
Yeah.
He's like, Nick, can you schedule him out? Like, is he? And Nick's like, yeah. He's like, all right, let's buy him. That was it. So everyone who like, when they found out we were selling, like, oh, just wait till you got to spend their money. Like they're going to fucking not let you spend anything. Like wait
That's
till
the
things
big
go
thing.
bad. So
Yeah.
everyone's always like, it's going to be bad. It's going to suck. Dude, it couldn't be better. So you have to submit a CapEx approval form. It's like a big Excel document. And it's like, how much does the machine cost? What are you going to make on it? Is it growth? Is it maintenance? Like it's this big thing that I got to fill out and submit for approval.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to buy another $1 million machine this year. And I also had to buy a laser marker. The laser marker was like 90 grand. So I was like, all right, before I do the $1 million milling machine, let me do this laser marker. I do a practice run and I submit it. It was Friday at like 9. Or no, that was Thursday at 9 because the Friday was the next day for the milling machine. It was like 9 a.m. I just sent it like right away. And then 9:08, I got like a rejection email. And I was in my head, like that split second, I'm like, fuck, everybody was right. Like this is going to be whoa. Like, and then I opened it up and it was like CapEx under 100 grand doesn't need approval with a smiley face.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit.
Spend away,
I'm like,
boys.
Yeah. I'm like, that
Now
is
it's easier.
crazy.
And they have like a budget for it for us too.
Yeah.
And they're almost like they want you to spend it.
Yeah,
Like
they want you
don't-
to spend it.
They want you to grow at the end of the
10%
day,
is
right? So
basically
they
what
want
they
you to
expect.
spend that, and you know.
So then I
maybe
did the
it's a
milling
double-
machine, and the milling machine was like $1 million. 9 o'clock, I submitted it, and there's like 6 people have to approve it. One of them's the CEO, Francois. He runs the whole group, and then basically everyone at the director level and executive level at the Acrotech like parent company, they all have to approve it. The CFO, my MedTech CEO, and like 9:04, I got my first sign off. By 9:10, the machine was bought. Like they all like
Wow.
approve.
Yeah.
Like these guys rock. Like,
That's
they're
awesome.
so awesome.
So what's the biggest value they bring to you aside from just that they've already been there before, they got the team in place to do it? Like what's the biggest value add that you guys are seeing, today with being acquired by a partner?
I think it's like customer synergies is a really big one. And then like also Acrotech is way different than other people. So like the last company that we were going to sell to, part of the reason was like, it sounds corny, but it's really important that we keep the name Axial. Like it sounds dumb, but it's not to me because that is like who we are. And like, that's the company culture. And as soon as someone like wants to change the name, that's not the only thing they're going to change. You know what I mean? So that's like a big tell to me that like someone's going to change something. So the last company, this 15-month company that we didn't get a deal with, they're like, yeah, we're not going to change the name. Then we like get the final offer. And then it's like, hey, you're going to be like the name of the company, Warminster, the parent company. We're like, hold on, we weren't going to change the name. And they're like, yeah, but we decided like with marketing and branding, like you're going to be just the Warminster branch. And I was like, no way. And my dad was already pissed at some of the guys. So he's like,
that was like if there was like the tip of the iceberg, it was that document. And it was just there was no getting a deal done from that day. It was never going to happen.
Chaos,
it went on for another month, and I'm going to these meetings. I'm like, what am I doing?
Forth. Like it was crazy, bro. It was just like so contentious. So then like it's that, and they let you keep your total identity. So we are Axial Medical, and we are good at implants and high production of implants that are complex. But then they have this other company that just bought, like for example, I'm going to use this company called Frederick Daniels. They're a German company, and they are just like us, except they do instruments, right? And then there's Takumi, a company in Ireland. There's Techtree, a company in Switzerland, and like all these companies are really good at. There's this company AFT. They're just like Axial. They're in Switzerland and in France. He has 2 plants. He lets us like keep our identity and do what we're good at. And all these guys, like all of us are into different customers and making different parts. So like I can be like, hey, company that like I can call my biggest customer, like I know we don't make instruments for you, but like now I can. And they're like, oh, sick. Like we love Axial. Like they make great parts. Like if we can trust them, like, yeah, here's a purchase order. It's literally that easy now.
Yeah.
And then they do the same to their customers. Like, hey, I know we just make instruments for you, but now we got like this sick implant house. Like, do you want to just maybe send us some plates and screws? Like, yeah, no problem. So now it's just like feeding the beast, dude. It's sick. It's awesome. And they're just they're great people. Like the Swiss people are literally like Americans, but nicer. Like that's how I explain them. Like until they're not, like until you really piss them off. And then, like Francois, like
crazy pride
in
Switzerland.
They love Switzerland, especially him, more than we love America.
For sure.
Like it's crazy. They think it's the best country, but I think they're wrong, but they think it's the best. They think it's like the best country by far.
It's funny though. It's funny.
So his whole logic is that Acrotech became Acrotech because it's like a group of like-minded entrepreneurs. So it's like everyone's like us. Like that's the other big thing is like no matter how good your company is, if the CEO is an asshole, he won't sell. He won't buy your business. And the other thing that his other requirement is that it's a blood succession has happened. So he won't buy it if it's not blood. So like, Fran, if you started a business and like gave it to me, they wouldn't even look at it because they'll think that I won't care as much as a Walsh. They'll be like, the Walshes will care about the Walsh's business.
That's cool.
I like that. It's sick. It's just like a little thing, but it's the same thing like changing the name. Mm-hmm. So once I heard that, I'm like, all right, he gets it because like it's dumb, but it's not dumb. So,
at least the experience we had, there was no model like this where it was, you wouldn't know that we sold Axial unless we told you we sold Axial. Yeah. Our employees wouldn't know that we sold Axial unless we told them we sold Axial. Everything stayed the same. The name of like their paycheck, their healthcare providers, you would never know. Yeah, like,
literally.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a big support system now in a way, obviously financially, but also like business wise, it's just a huge support system.
His whole thing is that like Switzerland is so good because it's different than the US. In the US, the federal government has all the power. States have a vote, but the federal can overrule them. It's the total opposite in Switzerland. Like all the cantons have the power. So like canton is just like a state. And I think there's 13 in Switzerland. I might be wrong. Maybe 13.
It's almost like counties and PA is how we have talked about it.
And like they have their own votes and from canton to canton, like laws are totally different. And he's like, and that's what makes Switzerland so successful is that like everyone truly has their own say. So that's what he says about the businesses. Like, we're not going to like, hey, we bought you. And then what they really do is they make like high-end watches. That's how Acrotech started. They're like watchmakers. He's like, but just because we're watchmakers, we're not going to make you make watch parts. You're not good at that. Like, we're good at that. You do what you do. We bought you because you're a successful company.
Yeah, just keep rolling.
Just keep doing your thing.
Yeah. Which is like a perfect scenario for us. Mm-hmm. Perfect scenario. I mean, it sounds great for everybody, right?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
For us and the type of the personality that we have, it meshed.
Yeah. So what's next for you guys? Like what, now that, you guys have sold, like what's the plan? Obviously the old model that your dad had done was, like sell the business, chill a couple of years, then build it bigger and better. Right. So like, what's your guys' thoughts? Are you guys just going to try to keep making Axial bigger and better? Is there ever like, a desire to get into any other form of business? Like what's the thought process from here on now?
For me, it's definitely just ride this Axial train as long as it goes. Like I can see myself working here until I'm 60, what I mean? And, they give us the opportunity to reinvest back in the business too, as a whole. So
That's
at the
actually
Acrotech
that's
level.
super unique, and actually that was a requirement too. So he's not like, hey, we're gonna buy your business, and you can't just take all the cash.
Yeah,
you got to show me, like, aside from the whole blood thing, you got to show me that you also believe in the business still. So you have to invest reinvest a certain amount, and it's like it's not into Axial, it's into Acrotech.
Yeah,
you got to show us that you believe in us.
So I think
cool.
we'll just it's private equity backed, right? So there's there'll be different moments where like a liquidity event could happen, right? But I think I see myself just riding the Axial train as far as it takes me, and then just I'm not the type that would be able to have like start something else on the side. Like I want to, if I'm in something, I'm fully focusing on that, and anything else outside of that's just a distraction, and I'm not going to give it my all at either one of them then. And what's the point of that? So for me, it still feels like a family company. It still feels like it's our company. It doesn't feel any different than the day that I came on in 2017. It's just still that same level of like care about it. And all the people in there, all the people are like, that's key for me. All these people, I feel a certain I feel a certain responsibility to stay on and ride these out. Yeah, it's 50 people that that are at our place now that they all have families. A lot of them have kids, and like there's a certain level of responsibility that I still feel that I felt in 2017 to make sure that I'm there.
That's awesome. That was very well said. Let's wrap up with a couple of our questions here. So obviously you guys have, you've had some great stories so far. Obviously a lot of high highs, a lot of low lows. Two of the questions we always ask when they come on here is, like what's either individually or business wise, what's the best money move you made and what's the worst money move you made? And if you have any specific stories, that'd be good for the audience to hear. Things to avoid, things to really do. We would love to hear them.
You want me to start?
Yeah, go for it.
So I would say my worst money move. So I'll just stick to all personal things. Me and Rachel moved into our house in April of 2020, and like we stretched ourselves there. And we moved into our house at 2020. We didn't have much money left. Like that was, we went all in. So that was April of 2020. In June of 2020, I shorted the S&P 500. And
but you also didn't short that. You triple leverage.
So I bought SPXU.
Yeah.
So like at the end of the day, it's like, is it more risky because it's triple leverage? Sure. But is it less risky because I bought SPXU rather than shorting the S&P. That would be a different ballgame. But I bought the triple short of the S&P with like money that we probably could have used for the house. And because I'm looking at it, and I'm just like, coronavirus literally
went to the moon.
It was from here, I'm still sitting on it. I'm down 80. I looked at it this morning just because I was like, I wonder how bad it is. I don't really look at it so much anymore. It's now the money is not as significant as it was, but at the time, it was like, I was like, oh shit. Like I thought I was day trading. I thought I was going to make a quick buck and like move along. Yeah. So I did that. And I was like, I realize I have no clue what I'm doing. That's the last time I'm going to be like messing with the S&P 500 in that way. But I'm down 84% for the day.
That's one of those great moments where you're like, dude, there's no way this doesn't work out. And then like literally like a day later, you're like, what the hell was I thinking?
There's no coming
But I'm
back.
looking at it, I'm like, coronavirus, this doesn't make sense. Why is the stock market still going up? It keeps going up. I'm shorting it right now. So I short it, and today down 84% to the day.
Love it.
That's so funny.
But I still laugh at it. Now it's just I'm just gonna wait it out. I don't even know when.
I don't know when I'm gonna just wait.
Yeah, I'm just gonna eventually. It's just gonna like I don't even know. I'll be down 100% at some point maybe. But that's my worst. But it's also funny, so that's why
Stay
I like
in
the
the trade, bro. Just wait.
Hang it out. My best. I'll segue back into the house actually. I mean, like we said, we bought in April of 2020, so we got really good value on our house at a really, really good interest rate. Like I feel like I'm stealing money at this point. But the value of our house now, like we just had a house in our neighborhood go up, and if that house, it's the same house as mine. If that house sells for what they have it listed for, we're up 40% on my house from 2020 in 3 years. You know what I mean? And that's definitely a shout out to Rachel there, because I would have never had the balls to go all in like we did. She wanted a little more than I did. But looking back at it, like now I look at it and I'm like, what a freaking awesome situation we have ourselves right now.
Oh,
like my mortgage is, I have a 2.6% interest rate right now, which people listening to this are going to like punch me in the face if they're going to buy a house now. Like I think it's at like 7, 8, whatever it is now. But yeah, like having that right now is just, I feel like it makes me. I'm so comfortable.
Yeah, sub 3, they're in like
It's
you're
insane.
like superhero.
I feel,
territory.
yeah, I
we
feel
have
like
one,
it's
we have one
stealing
client
money.
with a 1.8.
Yeah,
That's the
crazy.
most
Which is-
insane
that's
thing we've ever
insane.
seen.
Yeah.
It's
Mine's
literally
2
free money.
3/4, which is
Yeah.
like stealing money.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
that's what I would say is the best money move that I've personally made this far, just because the straight value on that 40%.
Dude,
in like
my
3
best
years.
and my worst are I was gonna do business wise is like investing in Axial is the best thing. Like,
Yeah, for
ever.
sure.
That's like crazy. But personal is crypto is the best, and crypto is also the worst. So I'll start with the best one. And I have like friends who push me into crypto, a guy named Pat Skelly, a guy named Mike Faber. Like they both pushed me deep into crypto, and I made a ton of money in crypto, enough that I like essentially bought my last house with, well, all right, this is so stupid. I'll tell the story. This is dumb, but I got lucky and I totally forgot about this. I built 3 houses. I built one in the city, sold that, made a bunch of money because I had an awesome realtor, Nick DeLuca, and then flipped that into a suburb house, which I essentially made. I did make money on that house as well. Not as well as the Philly house, but then I rented between my 3rd house being ready and after selling my suburb house. So I was like there building for like 16 months. So I put all the equity that I took out into one like small crypto coin. Jesus. Like, and it was hundreds of thousands of dollars that I put into a crypto, and I luckily doubled the money and bought my house with it.
Wow.
Your down payment.
Yeah, like literally, I was just like, all right, this house we just got a lot fucking
gosh.
nicer. But like, my wife had no clue. What
Oh, jeez.
bro, because I was like not sleeping at night. She's like,
Yeah.
you're always so upset. Like, and I'm
It's like,
yo,
our
Karen,
future's on the
yeah,
line.
yeah, she doesn't. I mean,
don't know
you
if
guys
Vincent's
know,
going to
like there'll be
school.
like 30% swings in a fucking week.
5 a week.
Yeah,
It's a
true.
fuck- give me in a
Yeah,
5
true.
minute.
Yeah, it could be literally.
You would
So
get
like,
a notification sometimes from Coinbase, like so and so is down 35%. You're like, okay,
yeah.
whatever.
So like,
yeah.
dude, I was just like
Sleep.
doing stupid
Yeah.
shit. So then like I eventually sold a bunch, and like I mean, to be honest, luckily they needed payments for things along the way because it was like forcing me to sell. So I like sold some, and I'm like eventually like I should fucking diversify. And then I diversified into other crypto, and I just made more money, which was fucking crazy. It was just perfect. So crypto made me a ton of money, and it paid for my house essentially. And then luckily on a smaller scale, I'm like, all right, this like buying and holding and putting it into like, I'm making a DeFi, so you can just like mine it. Like you get crazy APY, 1,000% APY. So I'm putting $8,000 in it, and I'm like pulling out like $300 a day from like some bullshit coins. I sell them right away for dollars. I put them into ETH like immediately. So then I had like all these dollars accumulated, and I'm like, all right, I'll fucking start like trading some leverage. So then I started with like 5x leverage, made money. Then I went to like 15 and then 20. And then this thing called Quenta. It's like it's on Optimism. You can trade 50 times leverage. And I like made a couple trades, made some money. And then I made one trade. I lost half of it. And I was like, fuck. And this was like this summer. And then I did it again. I was like, fuck it. I'll make it back because it just tanked. I was
Double
like,
down.
I'll long it. And then I just like opposite. I just like fucked myself so hard.
Yeah.
So I literally lost all of my, and yeah.
Yeah,
And then I sold some other crypto so then I 3 times traded it because I was like, my first trade lost. Luckily, I only put in 50% of my cash. Fuck it. I'll just put the other 50 in and I'll double down and make this happen. Lost that. And then I had like a bunch of actual coins that weren't like USDC yet. And I was like, all right, it can't go any lower than it is now. I'll just sell these for USDC and just make the same fucking trade. And I lost all that too. Like it was a lot of money.
You should short the S&P.
Yeah. So like, to be honest, that was like, all right, now I learned, I was like, I'm just never doing leverage trading. Like, I mean, it was a lot of money. I was gonna say it wasn't life changing money. It wasn't, it's not, it's a ton of money, way too much to lose. But
Vin, I want to congratulate you. The first person where their best and worst money move were actually both. They were actually both worst money moves. So, you're the first one that had 2 bad ones.
One just worked
One-
out.
one-
One play.
Yeah, one person
Bro,
just required
so
you to liquidate.
It was
Double
so
down.
dumb. But yeah, so like as you can tell, I have a problem with like risk aversion. I just don't give a shit. I'll just like risk.
Yeah. You just don't assess
so
risk
bad,
the
dude.
same way.
Yeah,
No, but those are important stories for
great.
people to hear though, because like that is
It
shit
happens.
that does
Dude,
happen.
do
like
not margin trade.
Yeah.
Don't do it because you will get fucked.
Short
Don't
the
do
S&P.
it.
everyone wants to think it's
Don't
not
do
going to
it.
happen
Don't
to
do
them
it.
until
Don't
it
do it.
does.
Yeah.
Lost a lot of money.
So last thing we'll end with here. Obviously, you guys have been very successful entrepreneurs, both super young, 33 and 28 years old. For young individuals that are trying to, build their company, what's one piece of advice that you would leave them with, as they're trying to embark on their journey to grow their companies, hopefully eventually sell one day?
29, you gave me a year, bro.
I would. You're old.
Yeah. I would say the biggest thing, at least in my experience, is just sacrifice. I think that's just, if I had to put one word to it, sacrifice. It's the most, family, right? And then it's the most important, it should be the most important thing in your life. And if people say otherwise,
You mean work is, right?
work.
Yeah.
And, work and your business it's the most important thing in your life. It's what gives you life in a way, at least for me. That's how I feel about it. Sacrifice and taking advantage of opportunities. When you're presented with the opportunity to make something happen, do what you say you're going to do. In our world, it's deliver good parts on time and deliver them with good quality. Do what you say you're going to do, and you'll get more opportunities. So
Like in life,
take advantage of
yeah.
opportunities and sacrifice.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah, mine's like that same thing. You got to be like a man of your word, but mine is like focus. So if you're like, and it doesn't matter if it's like you're starting a business or if you're like want to be a basketball player, if whatever it is, like you just got to like fully commit to that one thing, like that. And that, like jiu-jitsu guys that I know, they're just like fully committed to jiu-jitsu. They're freaks, like businessmen who commit to like one type of business. Like if you're starting a business, you can't be like, I'm going to do roofing and asphalt and excavating. And like, you can't do that. Like just do excavating and then like get really good at that. And then maybe down the road, like once that's done, then maybe you can think about like something different.
Yeah.
But like if you think about like, I'm not a sports guy, but like sports in general now, everyone's a specialist. There's like shooters, there's defenders, there's rebounders, like everyone specializes. So it carries over to the professional world too. Like you should just specialize in what you do.
Yeah.
Don't do a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
Do one thing, be really good at it.
Love it. Last thing, people want to get in touch with you guys. Where can they find you? Website, anything that you guys are posting about work stuff? If they have any questions, if they want to reach out.
We have an Axial Instagram, but I think it's been like inactive since like
I got like
for
14
4
followers. Follow me at Axial.
Yeah. I would say our website, axial-medical.com. That's the best way to like see a little bit more about what
just
we do.
email Nikki at his work email. Just
And
flood
you can,
his inbox.
Yeah, you can email me. You can put my cell phone out there right now.
Yeah.
I know how to block a number. But yeah, that would be the best way to get in touch with us. Instagram is, I think I'm at Nick Visco 6. But yeah, I'm not super active on social media by any means, but those are the way to find me. LinkedIn, you'll find me. Have my number. Text Fran and he'll give you my number.
Yep.
Yeah, it's my same way. If you need me, call Nikki or Fran and then we'll put us in touch.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. And hope you guys enjoy.
That was awesome.
Thanks.